A very warm welcome to the second episode of Conversations That Matter, a podcast where we talk about the big ideas that are helping humanity move forward, and very importantly, the inner work we must do to realize these ideas. Today, our guest is Delphine Blanc from France. Hello, Delphine. Welcome. So Delphine and I, we've known each other since 2008, so quite some time now. And we met as colleagues. And I remember Delphine joining the company fresh out of university. And I remember you, Delphine, as somebody who was very motivated, very driven. I would even say perhaps ambitious on the surface, maybe, but also carefully and reluctantly starting to explore more of who you are and the deeper aspects of yourself. And, we don't work together anymore, but it's been, really nice to grow as friends and to, continue to stay in touch. And it's been amazing to see you and to observe you and to follow you on your growth and the way that you've committed yourself to personal development, to personal growth, to reclaiming who you are and realigning your life accordingly. And one particular area that I found very fascinating was this rediscovery and reclaiming of your feminine essence. We were talking about that recently, and I felt like, yes, this feels like a very, very important topic for us and for where we are today as a society. And so here we are to explore and discover and unpack this very beautiful topic. I would love to hear a little bit from your words, how you would describe your journey that has brought you to this point.
It's interesting how you said ambitious, but on the surface, for sure, that felt like it. I think, since it's very young, I had this kind of question in my mind and in my heart, and it was very emotional for me. It's like the question of like, what the hell am I doing here? Really the sensation of I don't really belong here. I don't belong to this world. I don't understand it. I don't understand myself. I don't understand my emotions. I don't know who I am. And those questions, they're still in me. They're still driving me, but they were very, very present. And I remember very clearly the book that you recommended me to read about the hypersensitivity. I think that's a word, right? And that was like, I read that and I was like, oh my God, like this is me. So I there are other people like me. And that was, I guess, the first step to realize that, maybe it was okay to be here, and there was a way to make sense of who I am and to actually start valuing who I am and how I work. And that was the beginning of a path. It took me a lot of years. There was a lot of resistance at the beginning, but again, that's the path. Because when you start that path of that kind of self-exploratory journey, self-acceptance journey, self-love journey, it has many words, you're leaving the highway and you're like starting your own trail, and it's in the jungle and there is no map and nobody is here to guide your way, and you might have those lighthouses along the way, or a little, like you were and many others were, but there is no direction. You need to create it. And that's quite challenging.
So beautiful to hear that. And just to kind of loop back to the topic today around feminine and masculine energies, and when did that become part of your exploration, part of your, maybe I can call it part of your mission?
I think I guess subconsciously, I guess right at the beginning, that's part of the journey, because whenever you're going on that self-exploratory journey, you're invited to start listening to the
Mm.
inner knowing, right? And the inner truth. So you need to stop looking outside for answers and start dropping within, right? And it can be through certain practices or healing work, experiences. Um, but that's the nature of that, of tapping into that feminine energy, which is being in a state where you're in, like, like the chalice, right? You're receiving the intuition, the inner knowing, the inner guidance, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think that really gives us a good sense of what you mean by feminine energy, right? Because that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is to make a distinction between feminine and masculine.
Yeah.
Maybe you can say a little bit more about how these energies are manifesting and how they're complementary perhaps to each other, and how they're different from the male and the female gender, because it can be all very confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are energies. So we live in a world of polarity, right? There's black and white, good, bad, all of that, right? So masculine and feminine is the two sides of the same coin, right? And it's energy that are present amongst all human beings, so irrespective of the gender. We we all have both of them. Um, and the feminine energy is receptive. So as I said, it's allowing for that inner guidance, your inner truth, intuition, universal consciousness, however you want to call it, allowing it to arise, to be present with you. It's the memory, it's the instruction for your own path, right? And then the masculine energy is action, is movement. It's about making it happen, manifesting that intuition, that instruction, that inner knowing. So they're very complementary. Um, one without the other just wouldn't work, or nothing would happen, or it would be distorted, or at least you wouldn't be experiencing your true path, basically. Um, and it's a dance, yeah, between them.
So you're saying essentially that every person, irrespective of their gender, has has access to this feminine energy that you've described, and access to this masculine
Yeah.
energy, and that it is in the unification of these and in the sort of co-creation of these that really amazing things start to happen.
Yeah.
And that, as society, perhaps it's been severed to a certain extent, or they've been separated. Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yeah, I think so, a lot of people say like that since thousands of years ago, with the squashing of women, um, there was somehow a severing, or that access to the feminine energy went into hiding, like went into underground, and that affected whole mankind, right? So it's not just women that were affected. I mean, women were affected by it in their own bodies, right? But for all mankind, there was this kind of disconnect with that feminine energy, and that really went really deep inside, in hiding. um yeah.
Hmm. And how are you seeing it reemerge today? Like when you look around you and you look at let's say you look back at the work environment that you were in 20 years ago or 15 years ago, what are you observing? How is it evolving? What is the yearning that you see there?
I mean, for me, um, in mainstream corporation, we're far from that reclaiming of this energy.
Hmm.
Sometimes we mistake the rise of women again, or the reclaiming of certain um, rights for women, as the rise of the feminine energy. For me, it's different, because my observation is that women are rising, but in a very masculine, well, distorted masculine world. So they're fighting to get some rights, but they're fighting on the playground and on rules that are dictated by a distorted masculine. So they try to conform to that, which is not actually acknowledged in the feminine energy within. Um, Actually, from my own observation, and now more recently with clients, I see a reclaiming of the feminine by actually quitting those organizations. It's usually because certain women or men are so burnt out, are so exhausted um, by the society today, that are so disconnected from their body, and then life puts them into in their face again, like through diseases and all of the accidents, all of that, um, that um, that period of forced uh, silence, I guess, or that forced void in a way, because I'm quitting the job, I'm quitting, is forcing them to get back in touch with that inner knowing and that body wisdom, and what what was I doing, like I had the signs, now I recognize the signs, and what is my body telling me, and what have I just inflicted upon myself all of those years. And that's actually when the reclaiming of the feminine is happening, because there's the opportunity for it to arise, because there's this void which is not comfortable at all. Because you've lost, all of all the old word is not working anymore. I don't know where I'm going into, and I'm in this kind of space in between where I don't know where I am. I'm lost. Like, I don't know who I am. I don't know where to turn to. I don't recognize myself anymore. And that's the symbol of the feminine, that dark womb, dark place of void, where basically everything is possible. But when everything is possible, it's really scary, because then I don't know.
Can you say a little bit more about, I think you called it distorted masculine. We've talked a lot about the feminine. I'd also love to hear a bit more about what is the full expression of the masculine, the mature expression of the masculine.
So the mature expression of the masculine is being a servant to the instruction of the feminine. And the feminine services the masculine by giving the instructions. So they're both serving each other, right? And makes it happen, like it makes it tangible, it gives the instruction of the feminine a flavor, a look and feel, like, so that the feminine can actually see it in the flesh, and that's very rewarding as well. Now, when the masculine, like when we talked about distorted masculine, when there is no clear instruction from the feminine, because there's no access to that, or the feminine is not strong enough to say, to give the clear instruction with the full authority of it, like, this is the guidance. Then when there's no guidance, basically, like the image that I have in that is this kind of headless chicken, like running around, and it's like, but I don't know what to do. So then I'm looking outside, like what are other people doing, and what is the right way to do it, and then what again, oh, I want to do it better than this person, and oh, if I do that, but is it really right or not, or maybe I should be doing that. And so it's a constant like self doubting, or judging, or comparing, or competing, or and that's a bit the kind of society that we're in today, where there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of that war culture, and so that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is that if you sense into, well, there's no instruction, there's this kind of void inside of me, and there's nothing coming out of it, like there's no clear instruction, there's no inner guidance, then I'm left with a void inside of me that is empty, and I'm uncomfortable with that feeling. So I don't want to be with that. I don't want to feel that void. Because of course, like we feel it, right? Like we feel there's this yearning, like, what is the meaning of life? Who am I? Like we feel those questions. We feel that void inside of us that desperately wants to be filled. But I don't have access to the information. I don't have access to this inner knowing. So then I distract myself. Like I try to fill that void with this kind of external thing. I don't want to go inside. I don't know how to go inside. So I'm going to fill it with food, with alcohol. I'm going to fill it with the, Netflix, whatever. I'm going to fill it with an over-scheduled day or week. I'm just going to get busy, 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 so that I don't get to connect with my body and feel that there's a void inside of me. Or I'm just gonna get numb, right? Like I really separate myself from that thing, and I'm not feeling anything anymore. So there's like those two and maybe more aspects, but that's what I can see and observe today.
No, that's
From that.
powerful. Yeah, and I think what I love about this is that it seems to be really touching at the core and the sort of the root cause of, the things that we're seeing that are just not functioning anymore at the surface level, where the pain is, where people are experiencing the pain. And how you're pointing to this disconnect between the communication or the relationship, the unification of that feminine and the masculine that we hold within us. Like the fact that that's been severed is really at the root of so many of the the pains, right, that we're seeing.
Yeah. And sometimes the energies inside of it, those two energies, it's kind of a battlefield, and it feels like there's no possibility for them to be both powerful in their own right, because they're different, they're ruling on different fields, right? And that takes a lot of work, or of dancing, of for them to be both standing in their own power, like queen and king, really, inside of you. For the feminine, it's really building the self-confidence, because it's not really a muscle that we've exercised much. So it's really going back to her again and again and again and again. And as more as you do it, the more you build self-confidence in that energy. And for that masculine energy is more the letting go of control. Like now that I don't need to give to create the instructions anymore, I need to be okay to let go of that, like to trust that it will be the right instructions coming from that other energy. And but it can be a huge relief for that masculine energy, because in a way it was having so much on its shoulders, right? There was just so much pressure do the right thing, to make the right decision, without really knowing what was the intention, what was the goal. So it's like, and I can catch myself sometimes when thoughts are turning in my head, and I'm very here, and then I'm like, oh, which decision should I make, and then should I be doing this or this or this or this or this or this? And really, I have that image of the headless chicken, like going there in circles, and then I feel like, okay, it's just breathe and just tell that part of yourself, actually, you don't need to know. It's not your job to know what is right decision. So it's not your job. And that feels like, oh, okay, it's true. It's not my job. All right, I'm just gonna go on the side and just wait for the information to come. But it's also difficult because they're not working in the same way, right? The masculine energy is very linear. It's very pragmatic. It's very like this is the, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, this is the most effective way to go. And the feminine energy is it has its own timeline. It's cyclical. It's like it's a spiraling. And sometimes you're just asking the question and the answer is like, yeah, it's not the time. I don't have the answer to that and nope, not yet. And that's like difficult to, as an instruction for the masculine to receive. It's like, okay, so the instruction is not yet. All right. So again, that's the trust that, okay, it's not the right time to get that answer. Trust that I'm gonna, and that's the trust in that inner guidance, in that divine energy that is so much bigger than us, and that we can comprehend with our own little brain, right?
Yeah, like you said, it's one thing to conceptually understand this, which is already extremely useful and powerful. And it's another thing to have the awareness in the moment. What are some of the practical things that you find helpful in terms of making those little shifts, or bringing these two aspects of ourselves a little bit closer together, going on that journey of reunification?
Yeah, it's having those practices that create the space. There needs to be this empty, we need to reach that empty vessel state to receive the information. So whatever for each person is going to be different, but breath is very easy and accessible and instant, right? Movement, just like go for a walk, go to the coffee machine, whatever. Because when you move, things move inside of you as well. It's not stuck there. So just movement, dancing, chanting, gardening, whatever activity brings you back into the body. That's the most important, because that inner knowing is in the body. It's not up there. It's body wisdom, right? So whatever brings you back to the body and creates that space. So any practice that brings us back to the body, back to listening to what the body is saying, is going to be a way to exercise that muscle of connecting with that feminine energy. And the more we do it, the better we become at it. So it's really carving that time in the day. So that's one aspect, to kind of reclaim that connection with the feminine energy and to trust it again, and for her to build our inner authority and sovereignty of that. And then for that masculine energy, or distorted masculine energy, I guess, because that's more of that expression today, sometimes when that energy is too critical or judgmental, one practice could be to start putting a face to it, putting a voice to it, start again, it's getting to know it in a way, personify it, and start having a dialogue with it. And maybe, as I was saying in the example, maybe tell it like, oh, but this is not on you. like this is not your area of expertise. You can just drop it. That's fine.
So it's like externalizing it, right? You're disassociating yourself with it, but you're not pushing it away.
You're not pushing it away, you're embracing it because it's part of you. You don't want to reject it. It has its purpose. But you want to bring it back to center in a way. It's too extreme on one side. You want to bring it back to center. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wow. What a gift, Delphine, to share with you on this wonderful topic and very important topic. And I think you've done a brilliant job at connecting the dots and sharing from your own personal experience, and really connecting this to the evolutionary process that we are in, one where I think we are moving into a higher frequency paradigm, right? One where it is about reunification and the unity consciousness. And it starts with reuniting, these very powerful energies within ourselves. And then the collective evolution will happen by itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very grateful for having shared this, and I also just love seeing, having known you for quite some time now, just seeing how you have, very consistently grown and expressed more and more of who you are, and found more and more a sense of purpose and meaning in your life, and that's really wonderful to see.
Thank you.
Is there anything you would like to share in closing with people listening, or just to feel complete?
I guess it's just to have fun with it. In a way, it's just to explore and to have fun, to really not take all of this too seriously. Like, I'm only having one life. It's a very, 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 very short life in a way. So to just allowing ourselves to dive into these energies, to explore, to dare, yeah, and just have fun.